The answer is Stalingrad. This wasn't just a fight for a city. It was the collision of two titans, Nazi Germany. Today we re-diving deep into the frozen hell of Stalingrad to uncover why it became the bloodiest and most decisive battle ever fought. To understand Stalingrad, we need to go back to the summer of 1942. Hitler, having failed to capture Moscow the previous year, turned his attention south. His new plan, Operation Blue, had two primary objectives. First, seize the rich oil fields of the Caucasus. Without it, their tanks, planes, and trucks would grind to a halt. The second objective was a city named after the Soviet leader himself, Stalingrad. For Hitler, capturing Stalingrad wasn't just a strategic move to cut Soviet supply lines on the Volga River. It was a massive propaganda victory. Taking the city bearing Stalin's name would be a crushing psychological blow to the Soviet people and a personal triumph for the Führer. He became obsessed. So, the German Sixth Army, one of the most elite and battle-hardened forces in the Wehrmacht, commanded by General Friedrich Paulus, began its relentless march towards the city. Initially, everything went according to plan. They dropped over 1,000 tons of bombs on the first day alone, killing tens of thousands of civilians and creating the very terrain that would later become their nightmare. They couldn't have been more wrong. Stalin, understanding the symbolic and strategic importance of his namesake city, issued his infamous Order No. 227, not one step back. Retreat was forbidden under penalty of death. Every soldier, every citizen, was ordered to defend Stalingrad to the last drop of blood. This wasn't just rhetoric. It was a brutal reality enforced by NKVD blocking units positioned behind the front lines. The Soviets poured reinforcements across the Volga River under constant German artillery and air attack. For the new recruits, many of them barely trained, their life expectancy was sometimes measured in hours. But they kept coming, driven by a mixture of patriotism, fear, and sheer desperation. The battle for Stalingrad quickly devolved from a conventional war of movement into something far more primal and terrifying. The fighting took place not in open fields, but in the ruins of the city itself. The Soviets, familiar with the terrain they were defending, used the ruins to their advantage, creating a deadly labyrinth of machine gun nests, anti-tank positions, and sniper perches. The battle became a meat grinder, chewing up men and materiel from both sides at an astonishing rate. Months the Germans pushed deeper into the city, capturing key locations like the Univermag department store. As the brutal autumn fighting dragged on, a new and even more formidable enemy arrived, the Russian winter. The Germans, confident of a quick victory, were woefully unprepared. Their summer uniforms offered little protection against the sub-zero temperatures and biting winds. Their equipment froze. Engines wouldn't start. Weapons jammed. On November 19, 1942, they unleashed Operation Uranus. Two massive Soviet pincers crashed through the weaker Romanian and Italian forces that were protecting the German flanks. Within just 4 days, the Soviet forces met at the town of Kalik, snapping the trap shut. General Paulus and his entire Sixth Army, over 250,000 men, were completely encircled. Hitler, in a move of pure delusion, forbade Paulus from attempting a breakout. He promised the trapped army that they would be supplied by air. Hermann Göring, head of the Luftwaffe, assured him it was possible. It was a lie. Soldiers were reduced to eating their horses, then dogs, cats, and rats. German relief attempt, Operation Winter Storm, was launched in December, but was beaten back by the determined Soviets. The fate of the Sixth Army was sealed. Finally, on January 31, 1943, a starving and broken general, Paulus, surrendered what was left of his command. Of the nearly 300,000 men trapped in the Stalingrad pocket, only about 91,000 were left to be taken prisoner. And of those, fewer than 6,000 would ever see Germany again. The total casualties for the entire Stalingrad campaign, including the encirclement, are almost impossible to comprehend. Estimates suggest that the Axis powers suffered around 850,000 casualties, killed, wounded, or captured. That's nearly 2 million people in just over 6 months of fighting. It remains by far the bloodiest single battle in the history of warfare. But why was it so decisive? Stalingrad was more than just a military defeat for Germany. It was a psychological catastrophe. The myth of German invincibility, which had terrified Europe for years, was shattered forever. For the first time, an entire German army had been not just defeated, but utterly annihilated. The loss of the elite Sixth Army was a blow from which the Wehrmacht would never fully recover. From Stalingrad onward, the Nazis would be on the defensive, pushed back relentlessly towards Berlin. For the Allies, and especially for the Soviet people, Stalingrad was a monumental symbol of hope and resilience. It proved that Hitler could be beaten. The tide of the war had turned, not in the deserts of North Africa or on the beaches of Normandy. Thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments what other historical battles you'd like to see covered. See you next time.